Welcome, welcome. I am Dina, and this is Discussions with Dina. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope that you are in the best of spirits today. As we know, it is election time, and we are about 2 weeks away, I think. What is it, November 3rd? So we need to be getting ready. Are you going to the polls or have you already did your mail-in ballots? I know down here where I am, it's the big thing. Everybody's trying to get those votes in early so our vote can be counted. Now, one thing that is of concern to me is that I still haven't heard a lot of specifics from either candidate of what is going to be in it for us as Black people. So I am still listening. I'm sure some of you may have already made up your minds, but I'm still listening, trying to find out what's what. I'm neither Democrat nor am I Republican, but I'm listening and observing what's going on, and I'm not seeing a lot of stuff that would make a difference in my life for either candidate from either of them. So I continue to look and listen. But one thing in particular that I have noticed in the media lately is some of our people that are out here are promoting and encouraging everyone to vote Democrat. But for me to vote Democrat, I need to know that my vote is going to count. Um, I need to know what's being done in the interest of Black people because I don't want to simply vote just because it's a tradition. I want some tangibles. So I keep hearing my vote counts, but I'm not hearing a lot of how, why, and what you're offering me for my vote. Because I don't have any loyalty to Democrats. I don't have any loyalty to Republicans, as I said before. But I was reading and observing some things in the news, and on one particular person that was trying to speak to Black people issues, and that was Ice Cube. And there's been a bit of a uproar since he has come out about his plan that he has for Black America. And I was reading some articles that said that Black women leaders and Black male leaders were calling him out because he announced that he would be working. And I didn't hear him say he would be working with President Trump, but this is what they said. They were calling him out because that it was announced that he would be working with President Donald Trump's re-election campaign on what he is saying is a plan to help Black Americans. Now, Trump's senior advisor, Katrina Pearson, tweeted out on Tuesday that she showing her appreciation for Ice Cube and his willingness to step up and work with Trump amid ongoing national debate on police reform, which we know we need, and systematic racism and violence against Black Americans. Now, Ice Cube's real name is O'Shea Jackson, which is irrelevant because we really know him as Ice Cube. And he's been very critical of Trump. But he said on Twitter that the Trump White House has been more responsive to what he presented to them that is called the Contract with Black America. And that was in comparison to what the Democratic leaders told him. The Democratic leaders said they would address the contract with Black America after the election. So the campaign made some adjustments to their plan They're saying after they spoke to him about his suggestions or his contract with Black America. Now, Black Congress is supposed to be a bipartisan issue. And this is what Ice Cube tweeted. And they're saying he's famous for saying F the police. Now, I've seen some comments or memes that said, hug the police. And he, as we know, he was a member of a group called NWA. So they were very vocal about their feelings on the police. Now, what I have observed myself is a lot of this, and I came to the conclusion that a lot of this is just propaganda. And I don't agree with everything that's in Ice Cube's plan, and it needs to be tweaked and added to. And I think it left out a lot of components, but that's his take on it. And that's why we are here. We should be able to come together and contribute or take away or just make it where it would benefit us all. Now, we need Black people from other groups. It doesn't have to be everybody belonging to or being in the same frame of mind. We know that getting 100% agreement is almost impossible. But if we get the majority of people on the same page, we can actually come together and get something that can benefit the masses. We need to form some kind of a coalition, maybe give some insight or something to one another that can cause us to develop our own economic plan or party or even a political party. Who knows what can come from it? But I think you have to give him his props because I think it was a wise move for him because his focus was on Black people specifically. And he was willing to go to those that are campaigning for our votes and ask them to speak to those issues. And that's what we should be doing. We got to get off this tip that somehow we owe Democrats our vote exclusively because we don't. And we don't seem to require much of them. We're just saying get rid of Trump, which there's no doubt in our minds that that's not a bad thing. But what are we replacing him with? At some point, we're going to have to demand that Black people, as Black people, we're going to have to demand that Democrats give us something and don't group us with other groups. And then the benefits come and we get nothing. So we can show our allegiance by voting to what is in our best interests. Because some of the things that we fought for with the civil rights movement and our people sacrificed their lives for have benefited a lot of special interest groups, like women, white women for one, and then we have the LGBT people who benefited from the civil rights movement, immigrants, we have Latino groups, Indian groups, and various other groups that actually benefited from our sacrifices. So, as Cube said, we should have these political candidates speak to Black people here in America specifically. And I don't think he's wrong for requesting that. Somewhere along the line, we found that it to be unacceptable to say Black people or to request that candidates speak to the Black nation of people here in America. But we have to demand that there is legislation that speaks to our needs specifically, just as any other group would demand it. Now, we get wrapped up in titles and we get mixed into it. And it's like like I said, we are forgotten about. And so when we go under the title like people of color or minorities or in any other group, it diminishes our own needs. And it often means that we are usually left with little or nothing that we actually see the benefits of. So we right back where we started from, when we so desperately need and fight for anything we do it for the benefit of our people. And it's okay. It's not to say that other people cannot benefit, but we need to have a majority of us benefiting from what we are fighting for. Otherwise, it's just diluted and we find ourselves right back in the same position that we were before. And I gave the civil rights movement as an example of that. Now, many other groups have stood on our shoulders, like I said, and reaped the benefits from our physically marching, from us having to boycott different things and demanding just basic civil rights. But somewhere along the way, we are we've lost and been trivialized, and yet we still wear that burden for others to benefit. So there was a lot of lives lost in this struggle just for us to gain these freedoms that we need other people to support us when we're trying to benefit from some of them ourselves. Now, there's no doubt that the current president leaves much to be desired, but even so, we must keep in mind that voting him out is not the main purpose of voting. We have to ask ourselves, what change are we expecting or demanding from the person that will be replacing him? What specific changes can we expect in our lives? And because changing leaders while gaining nothing does absolutely nothing for us or our condition. So we have to vote for whom we choose, whoever you choose. But in order to make our vote count, Black people, we have to demand that these people come to us. We come to the table and they listen to our issues and they offer solutions. Then we put together, or they can put together, we can all contribute to legislation that can actually change our circumstances. So that has to do with, we just can't keep saying Democrat. I mean, if that's the best candidate that speak to your issues, I understand, but we just can't do it because it's been traditionally done. Now, Ice Cube said he presented his contract to both sides. He presented it to the Democratic side and he presented it to the Republican side. But the Democrats told him, come back after the election. Now tell me, how does that make sense? Now, when he presented it to the Republicans, at least they gave him the courtesy to listen to what he felt could benefit Black people in this election. And not just in the election, but consistently. But the news media, being the propaganda machine that it is, they got on their little horns and they started tooting. And he had an interview with Chris Cuomo, and this is the CNN anchor that he went on his show to speak about his plan. But even in his introduction, you could hear that it was a propaganda almost leaning negatively about what Ice Cube was trying to bring attention to. Even if you don't agree with his method or all of it, at least he was attempting to offer and have them be accountable to Black people, which they should be. Now, he was trying to give his explanation and say why and what it was that he was attempting to do. But like I said, in his introduction, Chris Cuomo kind of was one-sided to me. I think TV and media should really just present the information and let us decide how we want to, what we want to make of it. Let it be our choice. So they took his word and his mission out of context a little bit, and the propaganda started. So I could see all kind of memes, like I say, negative memes that were acting as if he had turned on Black people and somehow started to support Trump. But in the interview, you'll see it really wasn't that way. It's just a big game to TV. But here's a little bit of the interview with CNN's Chris Cuomo.
That is Russian intelligence. Now we see a shift. Now he wants to work with President Trump. Here's what the president had to say most recently about Black Lives Matter.
First time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, I said, that's such a terrible term because it's such a racist term. It's a term that sows division between blacks and whites and everybody else. And it's a very bad term for blacks. But they were very angry. It's a Marxist organization.
With all that going on, and how the president continues to speak about there being no systemic inequality, it's no shock that Ice Cube got some heat for deciding to work with the Trump administration. He wants to deal with it. I want to understand it. So should you. So here is Ice Cube on Prime Time. Thank you for taking the opportunity, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Chris, your lead-ins are a little misleading. Well, the Platinum Plan is not my plan. I came up with the Contract with Black America, and I didn't run to go work with any campaign. Both campaigns contacted me. Both campaigns wanted to talk to me about the Contract with Black America. One campaign said, we love what you have, but let's really dig into it after the election. And one campaign said, we love what you have. Do you mind talking to us about it? And that's what I did. So I didn't run to nobody. And so that was real misleading to me.
I didn't say you ran to anybody. I said that you had taken a pivot.
Well, you said I ran over to the Trump team instead of the Biden team. That's just not true.
Well, you are working with the Trump team instead of the Biden team, and people giving you heat for it. What do you say to them?
Well, I'm willing to work with both teams, but I'm just working with whoever is willing to work with me. So the Trump campaign came to me and asked me to explain to them some of the Contract with Black America. That's what I did. I'm not playing no more of these games, these political games. We're not part of a team. We have very raw problems, especially the wealth gap in this country when it comes to Black Americans. So I'm going to whoever's in power, and I'm going to speak to them about our problems specifically. I'm not going there talking about minorities. I'm not going there talking about people of color or diversity or none of that stuff. I'm going there for Black Americans, the ones who are descendants of slaves. And that's what I'm going to talk to anybody who's in power with that. So if anybody got a problem with that, it seems like a personal problem.
Well, here's the problem, and it is very personal, as you know, for a lot of people of color, because they'll say, well, why would you pick Trump when he says there's no such thing as systemic inequality?
Say, I'm not picking nobody. He's the president.
But why do you think he'd want to do something for the community when he says there's no such thing as systemic inequality?
I don't know what he want to do. I just know what the man said. I know what he said to the country. I've never met Donald Trump. So I don't know what he's going to do. I just know what he said he was going to do. So both of them have a plan. Both of them say they're going to do something. And who knows what's really going to happen after November 3rd. Nobody knows from each side. We're all hoping that candidates keep their campaign promises. So that's just it.
So let's look at it this way. I think that you're right to be skeptical. Let's start with the Democrats, because even though there is a traditional connection between Black voters and the Democrats, you could also say you've been let down or forgotten by Democrats in a lot of situations that would have mattered. Then you say, all right, so then what makes one side better than the other? That's where you get in trouble, which is, you really think that Donald Trump can be trusted as much as you could trust Joe Biden?
I don't think I'm not trusting any of them. I'm just going by action. That's all I'm going by. I'm not going by words. I'm not going by rhetoric. Not going by media spin. Not going by none of that. You know, I'm not on nobody's team. I'm not on Team Blue. Not on Team Red.
So then I have that.
I'm an independent person, and I believe that's what Black people need to do, is become independent. And we need to get something for our vote. You know, that may not happen, but it's gonna happen.
It's gotta happen. It's gotta happen. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Look, if I had brought you here to fight with you, you would have known it. What I'm saying is, I think I did get it wrong, and I want to make sure I get it right. So saying you're working with the Trump team is wrong. What you did was, when they asked to talk to you about it, you said yes. If Biden had asked to talk to you about it now, you would have gone to them the same way. It's not about you choosing anything. It's you working with everybody who's got a chance of doing anything.
So I'm working with whoever's in power. Yeah, I'll work with whoever's in power. I'm going to work with. So whoever, they'll hear from me.
Okay, so I'm glad you came to clear it up. So Ice Cube is not with the Trump campaign. He's just giving his ideas, and anybody who wants to do something with him, fine. Do you believe they are doing anything with your ideas?
I believe, they looked at the contract of Black America and they updated their plan, but it's their plan. I have my plan. My plan is broad. It goes beyond the public sector. It goes into the private sector, banks, even the movie industry. So we got to deal with a lot of different, companies, corporations, and even government when it comes to solving this problem. I believe it's a bipartisan problem. I believe it's a bipartisan problem when it comes to the issues, when it comes to blacks in America and what's going on. It's not a Democrat problem. It's not for them to solve. It's not for the Republicans to solve. It's for both of them to solve. They do it when it comes to debt ceiling. They do it when it comes to getting us some wars. They seem to come together when it's something that really affects America. And I don't think nothing affects America more than the situation that Black Americans find ourselves in. This country is coming apart at the seams, and it's not going to come together after January 3rd, no matter who's the president, unless we deal with this wealth gap.
You have the economics. All of it extends from poverty, which is an extension of opportunity, which is an extension of a system that doesn't give equal opportunity, and you see it everywhere. Hiring, education, finance, all of it. So acutely, we've been looking at what happens when policing goes wrong in communities. It doesn't give you concern that the president has handled police violence the way he has in terms of his commitment to work on any of the issues that you think are important?
We've been dealing with police violence in this country from day one. So police violence is just part of our life here. So, the thing is this. Once we get some capital, we'll be treated better. This is a capitalistic society.
True.
And if you ain't got no money, you see how people get treated on the streets when they ain't got no money.
Not just money, wealth. You got to be able to build up wealth within the community.
Yeah, to put it in greater terms. But, at the bottom line is, dollars bring dignity. And so everybody in America knows that. When you got a little more money, they treat you a little better. So we need to close this wealth gap. You got people, families making $120,000 or worth $120,000, and you got Black families worth $200. It's just an enormous wealth gap that keeps growing. It's not getting smaller. Do the research, and you'll see this is the problem in America. It's because Black people have no capital. We own half of a point when it comes to all the wealth in America. Half of a point. 13.5% people living off half of a point. We cannot survive in America another 100 years living like this.
The issue is real. The problem is properly identified. They do have access to capital of about $500 billion, but it doesn't say that it would be earmarked within the Trump plan for communities of color. But you can get.
Okay, so that was Chris Como and Ice Cube speaking to his plan for Black America. Now, like I said, I see no benefit to us from either party, to be honest, about the matters that are of concern to us. I didn't hear anyone just speaking directly to us about our issues, real issues. But I do notice the propaganda, the spin from all of this. And I am hoping that we can the next 4 years that we can at least have something that we can present to those candidates, because even though it was presented, we didn't have a lot of backing, or people didn't back it, and it could have been tweaked, as I've said before. But we can't have Democrats being accustomed to us simply giving them our vote. They need to offer us something in exchange for it. One of the things we could have, I think, should have been spoken about, or major issue, is the law enforcement, the abuse, and the murder of our people. That is, they should be held accountable, and I would have loved to hear them speak specifically to what would happen and what could happen and how we can change that with their legislation, because it is possible to do it that way. Because taking the lives of Black people under this system, and then they take our tax money and pay these people that kill our people. And that's just not acceptable. And then I would like to hear them speak more specifically on unemployment and reparations for Black people. Now, Kamala Harris has said in the past that she was not going to do anything specifically for Black people. This is what she said in an interview. But she seemed to have no problem whatsoever letting other groups know and not hesitating to offer assistance, and even explaining how she planned to assist LGBT communities, Latinos, and all manner of groups, even immigrants specifically. She had specific ways that she would assist them. But did any of you take a moment to see what Biden-Harris ticket offered Black America, or what Trump or Pence offered Black America? Now, when we allow ourselves to get lumped into those groups, like I said, and not specifically focused on, we get no real benefits or no real change from our voting. So nothing changes. So we got to use this vote and let them know that our vote costs. And we are expecting something, so we're just not merely going to give people our vote and not expecting anything in return. And that is my opinion on this matter. I would love to know what you think about this issue. Now, you can like, share, subscribe, and leave me your comment. I want to thank you for listening, and I will see you next time on Discussions with Dina.